What's up guys, Will here with Rennthusiast, my YouTube channel that is all about air-cooled Porsche 911 ownership experience. And in today's video, I'm gonna show you a horror story involving a 930 cab. So let me kind of set this thing up for you. I've got a buddy who also does a fair amount of work on my cars, a guy by the name of Erik. If you've been around the channel, you've seen him before. So yesterday I stopped by his house to see what he had going on. Usually he has a couple of cool classic 911s that he's working on, and when I stopped by yesterday, he was doing some work on his own personal brown car. I think you guys are gonna love this. It's a freaking beast of a hot rod. He also has a really killer aubergine 911T long hood that he's working on, beautiful car. And he also has a 930 cab that has been attacked by little rodents. So if you're an owner of a 911, then you know, like, a real fear that you might have is that mice get into your car. I had a minor experience with that myself. Thankfully didn't get into any wires or whatever, but anyway, in this video, Erik's gonna take us through what's going on with that 930, as well as the aubergine long hood, and he's gonna talk us through his motor project. So before we jump into that though, I'd like to share a couple of housekeeping items with you. First of all, you're gonna hear a little bit of mic popping throughout this video. I hope you'll forgive me. Second thing I wanna share with you guys is on August 27th, I'm hosting a what we're calling a Rennthusiast air-cooled classic drive-in meet-up. It's in Raleigh, North Carolina, so if you're in North Carolina, South Carolina, or Virginia, and I realize this channel has global reach, but if you're in my region, shoot me an email at therenthusiast@gmail.com, and I can shoot you some details on the event. So we'll have like a 2-hour backroads drive. It'll be led by group leaders who know the route, and then we're gonna have a couple-hour meet-up at a really cool warehouse with air conditioning. We're gonna have some food and just kind of hang out and check out each other's cars. So got a couple of spaces left at that event. I'll be offering some t-shirts for sale as well as some decals. So if you're interested, shoot me an email. Finally, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to this channel. Subscribers get notified every time I publish a video on air-cooled Porsche 911 ownership experience. So I cover events, repairs, cost of ownership, as well as really interesting classic 911 owner interviews where we get to hear the stories on these cars. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and check out Erik's garage. All right guys, welcome to Erik Lynn's garage. He owns a sports purpose garage, and if you guys have been watching, then you know Erik's been doing a lot of my work recently. Really enjoyed working with him. Dude's got a good sense of humor, no nonsense way about him, and today I decided to stop by his house, check out what he's got going on, because he typically has pretty interesting stuff, and so I just thought maybe he could take us through what he's working on. We're going to start with this brown car here, which is his personal use car. The thing is an absolute beast. He and I are going to be doing an owner interview on the car here in the next few weeks, I'll call it. But today he's going to talk to us about a recent motor project he did, and then he's going to take us through this long hood over here. And then he's going to touch on this 930 cab back there, which has a really, really interesting problem going on with it. So Erik, let me turn it over to you, bud.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, so this is my turd, affectionately known as Captain Chaos. The backstory on that is I have never named a car, but one of my English buddies saw the car when I first bought it and said, "Oi, it's Captain Chaos," and I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. Well, it turns out in the opening scene of Cannonball Run, the original Cannonball Run, JJ and his trusty co-pilot are bombing around in a flat brown 935 looking car. Of course, it's not a real 935. And they crash the thing and it goes into a million pieces. You never see it again. So it's only in like the first 2 minutes. But that's when you get introduced to Dom DeLuise's character, Captain Chaos. So somehow this car has always since then been called Captain Chaos, and then somehow it sort of rubbed off, and I'm also sometimes affectionately, or maybe not so much, referred to as the Captain or Captain Chaos. So that's the sort of the origin story of the name.
Well, I've ridden in this car, not for very long, but it scared the living hell out of me. So,
perfect.
So what we'll do, guys, in a future episode is we will focus solely on this car. We'll go for a ride with Erik and get the full backstory. But now that you've gotten a taste, he's going to talk us through what he has been doing back here. And I'm going to be honest with you, this engine setup is really over my head. So tell us about what's going on.
Well, so a few years ago, I converted this car from a 3-liter to a 3.6 with the standard 964 everything, just basically a good 964 engine. And in my typical fashion, that wasn't good enough. So then it iterated into an individual throttle body, mega squirt, run 3.6, still stock motor. And then eventually, John Holleran built me a crazy motor that still has 3.6 liters of displacement, but dynoed at 313 horsepower at the wheels. So it's pretty nasty. It's got crazy cams and big ports and valves and just about anything you can think of, and a whole bunch of stuff I don't even know about because John won't tell me. It's that crazy. So that's the reality.
It's like a secret recipe. You like how it tastes.
It's great.
But you don't know what's in it.
If there's ever a problem with it, I'll put it in a box and send it back to him. I don't want to know what's in there. So for several years, we've used this as an R&D platform for doing EFI conversions on engines. So we tried several different ignition setups. We went to from dumb individual coils to smart individual coils, and all of that on this car at least was running in batch, meaning not fully sequential, and wasted spark, meaning that all 4 plugs on each cylinder were firing at the same time, regardless of what stroke it was on. So I knew that ultimately I wanted to go full sequential, meaning adding a cam sensor and then having timed injection and ignition events per cylinder. And in order to do that, I need to move away from Mega Squirt. We've done a couple of EMU black installs. It's an ECU Masters product on the Terracotta Warrior, which was just an excellence, and a couple of other cool cars. And so that's what I decided I was going to do on this. So the most recent project that I had was I yanked the motor out. I cleaned up all the incredibly ugly wiring, which I'll give Will some stills of, just from having the wiring harness cut up 20 different times, and built a whole new wiring harness for the ignition and injection, added the cam sensor, did a bunch of other little things, hid the vacuum canister back underneath the car where you can't see it. Just really wanted to clean the engine bay up and make it something pretty to look at, because everybody always wants to see the engine, and honestly it was pretty gross. So now I think it's more appropriate for what the engine is and what the car is and the kind of work that we generally do.
Well, I think it looks beautiful. I can't wait to do some riding footage
after the dyno.
Yeah, in the interview video we'll be doing. So, by the way, guys, if you're not already a subscriber, you want to be notified when we take you through this car in a meaningful way, definitely subscribe. So that is the brown car. I am particularly intrigued by this long hood, given that I just picked up my 69. So, what do you got going on here?
So this beautiful aubergine car is a 73.5, so it's a long hood, last of the long hood CIS motored car. So it's got a 2.4 CIS motor in it. It has kind of a long history of being in this area. It was being taken care of by another R Group guy's shop about 3.5 hours from here. He's since retired, or is in the process of retiring. And the owner of the car is an active duty Marine who is stationed in Japan right now. So the car needed to go somewhere for probably another year, and it needed a bunch of work to kind of bring it up to snuff. Apparently it runs great. I'm waiting on batteries to kind of verify that. But it had some interesting things done to it. It's got some 996 hardback GT3 seats in it, which are not really the right call for this car. Owner wants to change the steering wheel out to something more appropriate, fix some of the dash trim. Somebody had installed some RS door panels and didn't understand how you install RS door panels and make the latches work with the little straps. So I had to take those all apart and rework everything because it was not working. So yeah, I'm just going to basically be going through the mechanicals, freshening all of that stuff up, changing out the seats and the steering wheel, fixing up the dash, and making sure that it's, you know, in good kit. And I'll also be putting some miles on it periodically just to kind of keep it fresh. We'll see too if he might want to restore some of the ugly bits on the engine, you know, that kind of thing. So by all accounts, it's a pretty decent car. It's really solid. It's got nice paint on it. Somebody did some decent body work on it at one point in time, and overall, from what I've been able to see so far, it looks pretty great.
Dog likes to get fired up. So on this aubergine color, I'd love to hear in the comments, like, what do you guys think about it? So for me, I was telling Erik this a little while ago, like, sometimes when I look at this, like I'm going nuts for it because I think it's killer, and then at other times it kind of presents burgundy, which isn't really my favorite. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Now let's jump over to what I'm affectionately calling the mouse attack.
Yeah, when mice attack.
Yeah, this one is, it's an unfortunate tale, but I think Eric's going to at least get it back on the road. So why don't you tell us about this? And by the way, guys, sorry about the angles. It's tight in here, as you can tell, but we'll do our best.
So again, kind of a neat car story. Local guy bought this car 10 years ago, used it for a little while, and it had been it came out of Florida with upgraded AC, real SSRs on it. Or, I'm sorry, speed lines on it. My bad. And the motor's all pumped up. It's been built. It's got cams. It's got K27 quick spool and the extra injector, and the fuel head's been modified, and it's got a big intercooler. Supposedly, it's like 450 horsepower of the wheels. We'll find out. But anyway, so the guy trailered it out west and then spent 3 or 4 weeks driving around all the cool places out west with the car, brought it home on the trailer, put it in his garage, popped the hood, and the hood release broke. Couldn't get into the hood. He was going to fix it. The battery died. Then he was going to tow it somewhere. And anyway, long story short, 7 years passed. The car sat in his garage with stuff piled all around it with the top down. And the mice moved in. So basically every part of this car stunk really, really bad when I got it. And I've been working my way through that. I got into the trunk. Fortunately, the later cars have an AC blower that goes here. And if you're really crafty, you can pull the lower condenser off and back those screws out and get access from there up to the latch, unlatch it, boom, you're in the front trunk. And then I had to get rid of all the mouse nests and poop and all that good stuff. Not awesome work, to be honest. Not getting paid enough for that.
And I can attest to the fact that I stuck my head down in here. I guess it's a lot better than it was, but it stinks.
So where we're at right now with it is I'm waiting on some parts to fix the front trunk release and put this back together. I have one electrical circuit that doesn't work, and unfortunately it's the one that fires up the CDI box, so it's got no power for ignition. And I determined that the rear fuel pump is wasted, mostly because it melts the jumper wire in your hand when you hook it up.
Yeah, you learned the hard way.
So I'm going to replace that pump and further diagnose the wiring back to that CDI box, and then hopefully she's a runner again, and we can go from there.
Well, as I said, always fun to come by and see what you got going on. This one right here is indeed a sad story.
Yeah, it's important to note, like, it's an original paint, 80,000 mile, real 930 turbo. So it's really a bummer that it got to where it is, but it will be much better at some point in the not too distant future.
Well, Eric, thank you so much, my friend.
Always.